Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about How Teachers Make Children Hate Reading by John Holt. And it's a pretty easy article to understand. Keep in mind when Holt is talking about his article, all of the examples that he's giving, he's using elementary school. So when you go and apply this to your own paper, remember you're in college, and so some of those things might not apply. So think about that. Think about that when you're applying that, because it might make a difference. But what Holt does is he goes through and he explains things that we do when we're trying to teach our students to love reading that actually teach them to hate reading, which saddens me because I'm a reader and I love reading. So I've done a lot of soul searching myself after reading this article to see, do I do these things when I'm trying to encourage my students to learn to read? Do I actually hurt them? It's an interesting question. As you read this, think about your own experience for reading. Apply these ideas to yourself. So let's dive in and see what Holt suggests. The first thing he does on our excerpt is he says, I never gave my students an opportunity to say what they really thought about a book. So Holt is saying that not having the opportunity to engage with the reading, to give your feedback, to give your opinion when you're reading can actually harm you. What do you think? Do you agree? I think so. I always engage with what I'm reading, but I do find that some of my students don't. So I do encourage you to engage. You don't have to agree this semester with everything we read. Actually, I encourage you not to agree. Feel free to argue. We have to understand what the author is presenting, but we don't have to agree. And you always can have an opinion. This is absolutely part of the reading experience. Then he goes on to talk about another thing is where when the instructor makes the student go down into the very nth degree, when you look at every single word and you're looking down to the teeny tiniest detail. Now, sometimes we have to do this. When we're looking at Daniel Pink, or we're looking at the habit loop, when we're looking at some of these things, we have to be very specific. But you also have to understand the broad strokes. So here, he's talking about a bad choice of writing. The Deer Slayer is something that nobody is really going to care about in probably the 7th grade. And he's also kind of talking about reading things that nobody cares about. So another thing that he's talking about is making sure that students understood everything. You'll see if you're watching my video lectures, I don't go through line by line. I pick up the key points and the things that I think are important. So you can't understand every single thing. There's simply too many things to understand. This is what he's talking about here. Teachers try to make sure that the student understands every single little detail. And I'm not sure that you can do that anyway. So that's another thing that Holt says that teachers do to make students hate reading. On page here 197, this I think is very difficult. Holt is talking about making books. This is paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We make books and reading a constant source of possible failure and public humiliation. That just breaks my little teacher's heart. It really does. To think that reading would be a constant source of possible failure. Now, I know that's often true in the English classroom as well, and I don't know what to do about it because we have to read. You have to read. And I know the sheer amount of reading that you have this semester can be so overwhelming to you and feel like a source of constant failure. So we have to get our reading up. We have to read more. We just do. Going to college is about reading. Again, it's very tricky. He's talking about elementary school. We're in college. He's also talking about reading out loud. And you'll notice in my classroom, we never read out loud. I never make you do that. I've never understood reading out loud. I never liked it. So this is what he's talking about here. And then he gives many more examples, the theory, lots of examples, illustrations, more examples, lots of examples. And then he talks about spelling, private papers, lots of example, reading out loud. And then here is one more thing, is spelling. Now, spelling does matter, don't get me wrong. You have to spell correctly. However, today we mainly use computers, right? When you're writing your in-class test, you're on computers. When you're writing your emails, you're on computers. When you're doing your essays, you're mostly on computers. In that case, there's really not any excuse for not using spell check, for not using grammar check. You're on a computer. Use the resources that you have. But when you're doing in-class things, spelling is not as important. So here on page 202, at the first full paragraph, he says, we treat a misspelled word like a crime and penalize the misspeller severely. English is difficult, and English spelling is crazy. Who can keep up with all those rules? I've actually taken an entire class on spelling, and I am actually a terrible speller. So what do? Because I know I'm a terrible speller, I have a dictionary open anytime I write. I always have my dictionary open. I always check my spelling. But when I'm in class writing or when I'm handwriting, I don't worry that much about it. As long as you don't spell something wrong that doesn't make the word wrong. If you spell one word and it makes another word, hat, hate, two completely different words. So we do have to be careful with that. So basically, this is really just giving examples about reading, and this is probably going to offer you some different insight on how reading is taught in American elementary schools if you don't know. Holt gives us 4 ways that teachers hinder students' readings. So go ahead, read through that, and see what you can make of that. If you have any questions, as always, you can reach out to me. I hope everybody has a great day.